but it means extreme unwillingness to spend money or use resources. Parsimony.
I am not parsimonious in my household. I have to work on that personally. So, but that is a good attribute. Even though it sounds kind of negative, like an unwillingness to spend money and resources, it doesn't hurt you to save. Okay, next we'll move on to our timer.
Hi, Mashed, I'll be the timer for this evening. The first speaker and the second speaker, we have two speakers, and for the master topic that they discuss, 5 minutes is an ideal frame window for the speech, and we'll have a green light, so they are well in the range. As it bleeds out from 5 to 6, it's a sign that you have to start winding up, and when it goes above 6, it's towards 7, I'll light up the red light as an indicator that we need to start winding up the speech and gather the overview of the speech. The individual topics would be 1 minute is the appropriate time for it. It's green. 1 minute, 1.5 minute is yellow, and above that is a red light that you plan to summarize the answer and try to wind it up. For general evaluation, we have 2 minutes for green, and after that we have a yellow and red for every half a minute. So I'll update after the meeting how all individuals have accommodated their speech in what time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have our ah counter.
That is me. I'll be keeping track of the words, but so's, and I'll give a report at the end.
Okay. And then last we'll hear from our general evaluator.
Yes. As general evaluator, I'll give a general evaluation of the meeting as a whole, and then I'll introduce the speech evaluators as well as the timer, the all counter, and the grammarian to give their evaluations as well.
Thank you. All right. Well, without further ado, we will continue to. Oh, table topics. I'm so sorry. Now we'll hear from our table topics master.
Good evening. My role tonight is Table Topics Master, and I will have a series of questions, 1 to 2 minutes, that I will either pick someone to answer or you can volunteer to answer. And you will just come up, answer the question, and it's impromptu, 1 to 2 minutes each.
Table topics is one of my favorite parts. You
Mine too.
get to learn more about people, the process, and yourself. All right, so we will move on to our first speaker. He will be Sean Shea, who's going to be talking about the future of artificial intelligence. I'm really excited about this speech.
Thank you. Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, I'm here to share my thoughts and questions about artificial intelligence, just based on some of my research I've done in the last week or two. I don't claim to be an expert in it or anything. I'm a civil engineer by trade, so I do have some experience with programs and modeling and bridge modeling and those sorts of things. But first question is, let's define what is AI. And AI is really beyond your normal Excel spreadsheet or modeling. It's really a machine learning type thing. So the machine is learning from human interaction, learning from interacting with people. And the easiest way to visualize that is to watch some of the YouTube videos on the robots that have been developed by Hanson Robotics. one is, the most famous robot is Sophia, or humanoid. I call it a robot, it's much easier. But Sophia is, she can make facial expressions, she can, she has, she can, yeah, like show emotions, and also it's very interesting because she can really have a conversation with you. And so how do we as people deal with this, and where's the future going with all of this? I think of TV shows. The first one I can think of is the Jetsons, and Rosie was the maid for the family. That was more of a happy result of advancement in our technology. And The Matrix is another one that I'm very fond of. I really enjoyed that movie, and not the best result when it came down to it. Everybody was a slave to the machines. If you've seen the movie, I don't want to ruin it for you, but so the other part of this equation is, how does it affect our work life? What is going to get automated? I was thinking about my career, and I thought about some other people I know and just different occupations. And they said that there's some experts that have said that 40% of jobs could be automated based on AI. But also, there's another field that could be created from this, where we are more kind of like overseers of programming. And when I'm talking about AI, I think of robots, but it's really a lot of packaged, programs or packaged intelligence, artificial intelligence. There's been some famous innovators. Elon Musk is one person that has said that we should really be careful with artificial intelligence. I don't know what that means fully, but I think what it means is we just have to tread lightly and proceed with caution. If we think about cell phones and how much that's changed in 20 years, really, we don't really know what we're getting ourselves into, potentially. They talk about singularity, which is where machines or AIs get to the point where it's as advanced as humans are, and then it's kind of like, what's going to happen next after that? And if machines are there to serve us, and there's no emotions, then, and there's no emotions and no flaws, I guess. They don't pick up our human frailty, our flaws, then we should be okay, is my thought. But in conclusion, I really just wanted to share my thoughts on AI, what I've learned, and I really believe that we all as citizens of the world, we just need to be aware of the pros and cons and potential dangers, and just keep our eyes open and hold our leaders accountable and our business leaders accountable to these technologies. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thanks, Sean. That was awesome. that's a subject that's always been so fascinating to me. Probably all my favorite movies, like it all has to do with AI one way or another, whether it's like Blade Runner or like, Her. I don't know if you saw that movie, that was a good one, but all my favorite movies boil down to AI at some point. So it's something I think a lot about. And it is one of those things that, if you think about it, we went back in time and showed someone an iPhone in like the year 1999, they'd be like, what the hell is that? Like, what is this thing? So I can only imagine what things may be like in 20 years from now. All right, so now I'm going to introduce our second speaker, Mr. Luke Green, who will be giving his icebreaker speech.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. All right, good evening, fellow Toastmaster members. So this might seem a little backward tonight, me giving my icebreaker, since I'm already a member and you guys have seen me give plenty of speeches before. But I just recently chose my path of leadership development in the Pathways program. It requires you to give an icebreaker, and I tried to get out of this, but Maurice told me I had to. So I actually thought this was going to be a good idea as well, because I did take a year break from the club, and so many of you guys weren't here when I did get my icebreaker, so this lets you learn a little bit about me tonight. So my name is James Lucas Green, but I've always been called Luke by my family and friends. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia on June 23rd, 1980. I have an older brother named Jed and two wonderful parents who've been married for 49 years. I grew up north of Atlanta in a place called Canton, Georgia. We lived on about 5 acres, which was mainly woods. Most of my childhood that I can remember was spent playing with my older brother and turning anything and everything that I could find into some sort of weapon or gun. If I wasn't playing with Jed or my endless supply of fake guns, Jed and I would help my father outside with work. We also started playing soccer at a very young age, and this took up the majority of our time with all the games, practices that we all had to attend. I can honestly say that I had a great childhood, and looking back, I know I was lucky to have such a wonderful home life to grow up. So in 7th grade, I also picked up wrestling, and I continued with soccer and wrestling throughout high school. After high school, I got a soccer scholarship to Young Harris College. I stayed there a year, played soccer, and then when I left Young Harris, I proceeded to attend 2 more colleges. One was back home during my transition out of Young Harris, and then a year later I went down to Georgia Southern University where I lived with my older brother Jed. So as you can see, I jumped around to 3 colleges in about 4 years. Well, we all have a wild streak, especially when we're younger. But unfortunately for me, mine was quite a bit longer than a streak, and it made me make some bad decisions and really lose out on a lot of good opportunities in my life. So after returning home to Georgia, I was at a crossroads. No degree, no real purpose or sense of direction. All I knew is that I needed to grow up and really start looking at my future and where I wanted to go. So this leads me to my next topic and what I did to get me out of the hole that I so graciously had dug for myself. So late one night while watching TV, and out of nowhere, the military popped into my head. It was like somebody put this thought in my head because I wasn't thinking about the military, I wasn't thinking about my future. It just randomly happened. So in the most random moment, late at night, I suddenly and almost instantaneously knew what I was about to do with my life. It only took me about a day to figure out what service I wanted to attend or join, and it was the United States Coast Guard. So boot camp was full of fun days, which were predominantly filled with the yelling and screaming of all the drill instructors who crossed your path. I successfully made it through boot camp and was shipped off to Kodiak, Alaska. I was on a buoy tender, which is a 225-foot ship that goes out and services aids to navigation that all mariners follow while out at sea. And also we did commercial law enforcement boardings on commercial fishing vessels. So I left Kodiak after 1.5 years and headed to Yorktown, Virginia for my rating school, which is a boat me. From there, I got shipped to Seattle, Washington, where I was stationed on the Polar Sea, which is one of 3 of the icebreakers that the Coast Guard operates. While on the Polar Sea, I made 1 trip to the South Pole, which took us about a total of 7 months, and we were in Antarctica for 1.5 months of that, breaking ice through to McMurdo Station. Then we would escort freighters and different things, dropping off supplies to the scientific areas down there for the remainder time. I also made 3 north trips up past the North Pole while on the Polar Sea and a lot of places in between. I got to attend Navy dive school while attached to the Polar Sea and got certified to dive for the military as well. So after 3 years on the Polar Sea, I stayed in Seattle and went over to a unit called the Maritime Safety and Security Team. This was a small boat tactical unit that was formed after the events of September 11th. So our main purpose was to set security zones around whatever the Coast Guard deemed a high value asset. This was a deployable unit, so we did a lot of traveling and frequently followed President Obama around to his speeches and set waterside security for his events and vacations. We were also deployed to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba for 6 months, where we did waterside security for the prisons and the U.S. base there. After I left the Maritime Safety and Security Team, I was fortunate enough to get stationed on an 87-foot patrol boat out of Pensacola, Florida. So this was somewhat near my family, which is exactly what I was looking for at the time. So my main job at this unit was law enforcement and search and rescue. After 3 years on the Bonito, I transferred to the Gold Strike Team here in Mobile, Alabama. So my strike team duties included all hazard emergency response and also includes natural and man-made disasters. I just left the strike team about 4 months ago, and right now I transferred to a small boat search and rescue unit out of Pascagoula, Mississippi, where I'm currently the operations officer. So to close my speech out tonight, why did I choose to join Toastmasters? I chose to join Toastmasters because I never liked being the center of attention, and my confidence to be out in front of people, especially speaking, lacked considerably, and this has held me back from a lot of opportunities in a lot of areas of my life. So in the military, leading properly and leading with confidence is a trait that I truly respect in others, and as I rise in the ranks, I want people to look at me with the same confidence in a leader that I admire so much. So Toastmasters has given me the tools and the exposure to help build my confidence in my leadership abilities, and I can say with 100% certainty that I've been in situations, leadership roles, and presentations, and if it wasn't for coming here, they wouldn't have turned out as successful as they did. So I am beyond grateful for what Toastmasters has done for me, and I can honestly say that I owe a lot more credit to Toastmasters than I can convey in the speech tonight. So now that you know a little about my childhood, teenage years, and my present situation, I hope this sheds a little light on who I am. I know that I'm not new to this group, but I hope this speech has made me a little closer to all my friends who sit around this table tonight. So thank y'all for listening to me this evening, and I'll take it back over to Mr. Toastmaster.
Thanks, Luke. I appreciate you taking the time to do an icebreaker speech, because I didn't hear your first one, so it was cool to actually get to hear your icebreaker and like hear your exact experiences through the Coast Guard and what brought you here today. I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks.
So thank you for that. We'll move on next to our tabletop master.
Hello, everyone. Time of day that I love the most, tabletops. And because no other thing would seem natural than to honor our veterans today, our table topic questions are going to be around today, which is Veterans Day. So last week I didn't really take volunteers. I just kind of called people out. So that's kind of what I'm going to do tonight. So brace yourself. And my first question is to Sean. Have you thanked a veteran today? And tell us about it if you did.
Ooh, okay. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, my question is, have I thanked a veteran today? I can say, unfortunately, I have not had an opportunity to do that, being in my isolated work environment that I work in. However, I'm very thankful for all the freedoms we enjoy as a country, and they would not be possible without our veterans. So if you do get the opportunity, thank your veterans. I am an introvert, and maybe part of if I was able to jump out of my shell, I might be a little more expressive of my gratitude to veterans. That's table topics.
Thank you. For over 18 years, I worked at the same company, so I knew who all my veterans were, and every year this would be just, I just give them a whole bunch of love and attention and praise. So I'm in a new job where I've only been there 4 weeks. This is my 4th week, and I just don't know who all the veterans are, so I was like, so I just spent most of the day saying, hey, happy Veterans Day, you know, to everybody, like, happy Halloween, you know. So I wasn't trying to minimize it, but because I didn't want to risk the opportunity of not telling someone thank you for their service, I just told them, happy Veterans Day. Maurice, this question is for you.
Yes.
I want you to think outside the box. So not the exact definition, but what is a veteran to you?
A veteran to me is someone who has served in the military consistently for at least a couple years, whether it's during peacetime or whether it's during a combat situation. And some people have debates on whether a person who hasn't been to war is a veteran or not, but we know by the technical definition is someone who served active duty for a certain time period, enough time to be classified as a veteran. And on this Veterans Day, I thank all the veterans that are here and outside of this room who have served this country honorably. Thank you, Madam Topic Master.
Honor our veterans yesterday and the members of the service. So we just thank you guys so much for all that you have done. Mr. Bruno, how you feeling?
Good.
Great. In the United States, we pledged, Mr. Bruno is from Canada, right?
Yeah.
Montreal?
Mhm.
All right, so he's just coming from where I'm just leaving from. I loved it
Yeah.
there. I want to go back. I told him he stay here and I go take his spot after the winter.
Yeah, of course.
Mr. Bruno, in the United States, we pledge allegiance to the flag.
Yeah.
Tell me one thing that you pledged allegiance to. Anything. Just tell
This
me
is
something.
a very long story about that.
It could be anything. Just tell me, it may
Yeah,
be.
but you know,
Come this way.
what do you want to mean?
So just tell me one thing that
It's very complicated topics because I'm French, so we were conquered by the English. So it's like you get your independence, and we wanted to get our independence too from the English sometime. 1837, 1838, we fought against the English, and we got refuge in the state. The state helped us a lot to be get refuge for some time. And Quebec, which is very particular, even is inside Canada, haven't signed the Constitution. Okay, so very, very complicated topics, and we want our independence. The culture is very different, and very different than the English one. So, but I think at the end of the day, we are. I think we are like merging more right now than we were many years ago. Having just a few moments to explain those things, But anyway, I'm glad to be with you guys.
I tell you what, I pledge allegiance to love.
Yeah, but we cannot play allegiance something that we're not part completely in, you know,
Mhm.
and
Right,
we have
right,
different view
Right.
than so that's why it's very, very complicated.
Well, and I mean, one thing that 99% of the time I pledge allegiance to my children
Uh-huh.
until they get on my nerves, until they make me sick.
Yeah, but we were very Catholic before, and
Right.
that was taking a lot of place in our society. We move a different way. If it's good, it's bad. It's very hard to say. Yeah, because I think if you don't have any some belief, you're not guided to in your life.
Right, you need some
This
time
one
to
of
leave.
my
That's right.
thought, but
I believe in that as well, but
yeah,
to each his own.
I know very
I think
complicated
we're
topic.
just about out of time, Mr. David. I sure wanted to hear you speak, but I'll. Okay. Again, thanks to all of our veterans and for all that you do and all that you have done and just service to our country as well. And please, if there's anything that we can do for you guys, don't hesitate. Thanks. And I'm turning this back over to our Toastmaster. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Olivia. I always appreciate your very, heartfelt and thoughtful table topics. Like I said, it's they kind of make us remember the importance of this day and kind of reflect on that. All right, so next I'm going to call the general evaluator.
Fellow Toastmasters, our guest. First, I'll go over the general evaluation of the meeting. The meeting started on time. We did have a recess to organize the roles, and then we had the pledge, and then the rest of the meeting went pretty much smoothly through the speeches and the table topics. And I will also at this time do the evaluation of the first speech, which was done by Sean. And the title of his speech was The Future of Artificial Intelligence, the Future of AI. And I'll go over the general comments as well as the evaluation form. Okay, Sean excelled at clarity of voice and language. Some of things that he may want to work on are vocal variety, gestures, and eye contact. I'll get more into detail during the evaluation portion. To challenge yourself, use less notes or look at them less frequently. More eye contact and more vocal variety. Now to the evaluation form. Clarity, the voice and language was clear throughout the speech. Vocal variety pretty much stayed monotone for the majority of the speech. Eye contact, he did have some eye contact with the audience, but it's something I do sometimes myself. I'll look this way or I'll look that way. Or when I'm stuck in thought, I may look this way. Eye contact, let me see, vocal variety. Okay, I did eye contact. Gestures. At the beginning of the speech, he had limited gestures, but as the speech went on, his gestures increased with his speech. Audience awareness. He showed awareness of the audience interest in the speech topic. Comfort level, he appeared to be comfortable with the audience. Interest, the audience appeared to have interest in the content. So that is the evaluation of Sean's speech. And for the second speech, you can choose to do the same speech over again based with the evaluations that you were given, or you can do a different speech with the evaluations that were given. Okay, at this time, we'll have the evaluator of the second speech, Luke's speech, and that evaluator will be Cheyenne.
Hello. First, I'll still working on my evaluation, so I'm doing that and I'll count at the same time. So sorry if it's a little splotchy. Luke, your speech was awesome. I just want to say it's super cool that you fit to the North and South Pole. Because everyone has a little map you scratch off, like you're probably the only one who can like scratch off it. So that's super cool. So I thought that your clarity was awesome. It was easy to understand. I wasn't ever questioning like, what did you just say? So that was great. You have good clarity in your voice. You had good vocal tone and consistency. There wasn't too much variety. I didn't really see where it would be appropriate though, but if you maybe could add things where you could, have a excitement or, kind of change your voice for that. But you had a good pace and was consistent through the whole time. You had good eye contact. It kind of lessened toward the end of the speech, but I think you were working on your time. The time light went off, so you kind of were trying to get through it. But you had really great eye contact in the beginning. I noticed you were making a point to go to every person at the table and make sure everyone was still listening and keeping their attention. Gestures, give you a 2 just because I could see just where I was sitting that your arm was moving. So you had them, but I couldn't see your hands, like what your gestures were because of the podium. So one thing that might help is stepping out so we can see those gestures. Because I could see that you were doing them, but I couldn't see what they were. But you did a good job. Audience awareness, like I said, looking around to each person, making sure they're engaged and know, hey, I'm talking to you. So that's awesome. And you appeared comfortable to the speech. Like I said, with the gestures, the podium can kind of separate us. And I know with my icebreaker, I was like, oh, I'm talking about myself. I'm going to put like a barrier up. It is kind of awkward, this speech about me. So maybe just to appear more comfortable, kind of standing out to the side. And your speech was very well structured. I liked how you separated it by the time periods of your life. This happened then, and then you had a good transition into each next phase of your life. And one thing I said you excelled at is the flow of the speech. It was very well organized. One thing you may want to work on, again, just maybe moving away from the podium so we can see those hand gestures. And then vocal variety, adding things that may be able to give you an opportunity to relay that. So overall, it was awesome. I love hearing stories about people who traveled everywhere, so I'm sure you have some cool stories. I still remember the one you told us about the coral, when you had to cut the coral and then glue it back. I'm still going to look that up. It's gluing it back, anyways.
It was cement.
Yes, it was really cool. So thank you for sharing about yourself tonight.
Thank you, Diane. At this time, we'll go over the Thomas report with Majid.
Hello. So the first prepared speech from Shane was, all speeches actually were very well in the green towards amber, well in the time. Shane was 6 minutes and 40 seconds, Shane, and Luke was 6 minutes 59 seconds, almost 7. The first answer from Shane was 1 minute, and Morris was 1 minute 4 seconds, and Bruno was 1 minute 17 seconds. The first evaluation by Morris was 2 minutes 19 seconds, and from Shayan the second evaluation was 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
All right, thank you, Majid. Next, we'll have the all counter report.
Okay, so for our speeches, Sean, you had a few O's, so you know and Luke, you didn't have any. Table topics, Sean, you had 1 Maurice, I didn't count any. Bruno, you had 2 O's. And then I had a lot. I had 9 and 1 so.
All right, thank you.
I won. I beat all of you.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll have the grammarian's report. And I don't have it. I wrote it down. I don't have the one that I wrote on. Who did the grammarian? Okay, Luke.
I didn't hear anybody misuse or mispronounce any words. I am guilty of getting caught up in people's speeches and listening to things, so it could have squeezed by me. And I didn't hear anybody or myself use the word of the day.
Okay, I think Kyler.
Oh, yeah,
Parsimony.
He did.
You
Parsimonious,
said
parsimonious.
Yeah.
He changed it.
You know, I think just to get it in. I mean, he had the opportunity to get it in, so just to get it. Yeah.
It's a good idea actually. First ball.
Yeah.
That's right.
We went over each evaluation, each report. So at this time, I will relinquish the lectern back to the Toastmaster.
All right. Let's see. Now, do we have anyone who's doing an education overview this evening? Do we have any awards?
Well, we did have an award, but the person's not present tonight.
Okay, that's all right. Well, thank you, everyone. This has been a wonderful meeting. I really enjoyed it. And I thank you for allowing me to be your Toastmaster. And I look forward to the next meeting. And I will relinquish to our president.
Thank you. Roles for next week. Are there any volunteers for any roles? I don't know who the speakers on that calendar schedule.
Majid and Lawrence.
Okay, but Jean and Lawrence are scheduled to speak next week.
We will be out.
Okay, they'll be out of town.
I can do Toastmaster.
Okay, thank you.
We're even gonna be doing for all I'm remaining.
Okay.
The main speech.
Or anybody else?
How do you time it?
Okay.
Do you have a table topics master?
No, I don't.
Okay. I'll do that.
Okay, if there's nothing else, this meeting will adjourn.